So here's one of those sort of classic anti-racism posts where, though I myself am ultimately anti-racist, the number of people in the world that don't know what that means, or have a definition I think is very insensible for what that means, or have a perspective that's just very low comprehension on it, is disappointing. And so I would disagree with a lot of them quite a lot. The responses to this one, where you see these three eggs, are quite good, though. Objectively false. Forensic anthropologists can identify different races by skeleton alone. There are primary genetic features, etc., etc. Yeah, obvious, like clear differences biologically. This guy says, "Hi, I'm a chicken farmer. I raise chickens. Different breeds of chickens always prefer the company of their own breed, and they fight each other between breeds. If we're all the same and no different than eggs of slightly varying colors, then what is diversity, and why is it promoted so much in white egg societies?" It does make sense. This is another one of the contradictions of our opponents' beliefs. They would say that that no race is better or worse than the others, and yet you need the variation. It is possible to construct a sensible explanation of that, but it's kind of distant. It's less explicable, less justifiable. If you say, for example, that the differences do not make the groups evaluatively different, but you need the variation, well, you could make that case, but it's quite a narrow expectation to be able to find that the evaluation is not is equal in the end. And even then, a lot of people would not say that they are equal in the end. They say that they're equal forever at every stage. So yeah, just a lot of good responses, and you cannot in the modern day, or at any time really, be a truth-oriented political thinker without taking into account factors that perhaps the rest of your society are uncomfortable taking into account, like genetics. Genetics are not the primary means with which we should be deciding how societies are run. In fact, they shouldn't be used in deciding that at all. Actions should be. And I realized this recently. Sargon has said that the defining factor of liberalism essentially is equality, and that's why it's basically communism. He has said that, and I think it's good. I would argue, in fact, that he's totally missed the point, which is weird to say that Sargon has missed the point of liberal theory, but let's ignore what the quote-unquote giants on whose books he's standing have said in the past, and instead propose a theory I've come up with which I think explains it better. Liberalism is not about liberalism, capitalism, and democracy. All these systems that work together that seem to be compatible, weirdly compatible. The thing that unites them at their core, the very basis of them, is judge on action. And that is why they're so successful, because that is a good idea. If you try and judge on belief, you're going to be wrong sometimes, because sometimes some people have beliefs you may not agree with, but which produce good outcomes regardless. Judge on, group, religion, judge on race, all these things. Maybe, more often than not, you'll be right, but when you're wrong, you get problems. So why not judge on action, and then you're judging by the thing you actually care about in the first place? Essentially, these ideas of judging people by the actions they perform is the obviously correct answer of how to run a society. The only time you wouldn't do that is if you are so desperate in your society and it's so eroded and so falling apart, or so already collapsed, that you do not have the leisure to take the time to judge people by the higher quality metric. And so you align by group. You align by instantly recognizable metrics. You prejudge, but you will make mistakes. You will lose opportunities doing that. It is that simple. Liberalism works because it judges people, because it advocates for judging people. It ensures that people are only going to be judged when implemented correctly on the basis of the things that are the only sensible way to judge people. And capitalism is the same way, which is what the quote-unquote equality is trying to do. In law, for example, equality under the law, which I wouldn't use that term, I'd use the term blind justice. It's trying to make sure that you're not judged according to what group you're in, what race you are, none of that, just the actions you committed. And in that case, the criminal actions you committed, or those that relate to criminal actions. That makes sense. It's obviously the way it should be. And that is just the same philosophy which is in capitalism as well, where instead of trying to equalize the outcomes by some group, you instead just equalize the opportunity, and then the actions of the individual, the market-related actions, are all that affect the outcome. That's how it's supposed to be, and that's why these ideologies work. And that's why I think they're so universally obviously the correct answer. And much like how biological evolution is the correct answer to how life diversifies, and there will never be a replacement to that idea. Everything that we do in biology will always be inside evolution as a theory. I believe the same thing is true of liberalism, capitalism, and democracy from now on, with a little bit of more flexibility there than with evolution, but broadly within the principles that they establish. No free society in the future will exist for long without adopting these principles. Yes, I'm not sure. I haven't given enough thought yet to whether that applies well to democracy, and not as well as the other two, but it still does. Anyway, let us move on.